Thursday Nightmares channel.
The trip to Haiti was a dream shared by the three of us, Sabrina, André, and me. After years of college and mandatory residency in a public hospital in Rio de Janeiro, we were ready to make a difference. When Doctors Without Borders accepted us for a humanitarian mission in Haiti right after the devastating 2010 earthquake, we felt that our destiny was finally to contribute to the world. Our arrival in the country was both exciting and heartbreaking. The humid heat and chaos surrounded us as soon as we landed in Port-au-Prince. The smell of destruction was overwhelming, a mix of rubble, bodies, and despair. Haiti, wounded and in ruins, seemed in a constant state of emergency. Yet, there was hope in the eyes of those we encountered. The following days were frantic. We worked tirelessly in makeshift shelters and field hospitals. Every day was a race against time, fighting to save lives with limited resources. Hunger, misery, and now, the rampant violence that had emerged in the wake of the tragedy. Gangs took over parts of the city, and rumors of kidnappings spread quickly among the volunteers. We tried to stay focused, but the tension in the air was palpable. It was on one of those nights, when we were all exhausted, that everything changed. They came without warning. Armed men, masked, with cold, merciless eyes. There was no time to react. We were just yanked from our shelter, guns pointed at our heads. Sabrina, with her hair tied back and the calm expression she always maintained under pressure, was taken with us. It was all a blur of screams, rough hands, and black blindfolds covering our eyes. We were thrown into the back of a truck, the engine roaring as the outside world disappeared. The ride seemed endless, bouncing along what felt like trails in the middle of the jungle. When they finally removed the blindfolds, we were deep in a dense forest. The air smelled of dampness and rot, and there was something sinister about how the shadows seemed to move between the trees. An improvised camp appeared before us, lit by bonfires and a few lamps hanging from rusty poles. The men shoved us into a flimsy hut made of wood and old tarps. The gang leader, a burly man with a fierce gaze, looked at us as if we were his last hope. "You're going to save my son," he growled, his voice thick and commanding. In the next room, lying on a filthy cot, was the boy. Dried blood covered his leg, where a deep wound emitted the unmistakable smell of gangrene. The boy moaned softly, unconscious, his body shaking in spasms. I approached, but it only took one look to know there wasn't much we could do. The wound looked like an animal bite, but much larger than any dog or wolf I had ever seen. The edges of the flesh were torn, and the infection was spreading rapidly, already compromising most of the leg. André and Sabrina exchanged worried glances. We tried to stabilize him, but without the right resources, it was impossible. Sabrina explained the situation to the leader. "The wound is too severe. The infection has already taken hold. We can't save him here." The silence that followed was deadly. "You're going to save my son, or die trying." The man's tone made it clear he wasn't open to negotiations. At that moment, the sky began to roar. A hurricane, forecasted days earlier, was starting to form on the horizon. The wind picked up, making the trees around the camp sway violently, and the leaves began to whirl as if ripped from the ground. The jungle, once just oppressive, became a scene of impending chaos. Lightning slashed the sky in a terrifying display, followed by thunder that made the ground shake. And then, as if the horror of the moment wasn't enough, another danger emerged. The men started glancing sideways at Sabrina, and their murmurs left no room for doubt. A group of 6 approached the hut, their eyes filled with dark intent. As the storm reached its peak, they burst into the hut, shouting things I preferred not to understand. They beat André and me while 2 of them dragged Sabrina into another room. The hurricane roared outside, making the hut tremble. The sound of the wind was deafening, blending with the thunder and the screams. But then, something else happened. Amid the chaos of the storm, gunshots rang out. A distinct sound, even in the hurricane's fury. One of the henchmen shouted something, pointing to the door. And then, between flashes of lightning, we saw it. A beast. Huge, with glowing eyes and dark fur, it emerged from the trees. Its form was indistinct, but its eyes, They glowed blood red. They seemed to pierce your soul. Panic seized the kidnappers, who abandoned Sabrina and fled, leaving the hut open to the chaos of the storm. We heard screams of terror and more gunshots as we struggled to get up. With the door banging violently from the wind, we took the opportunity to escape. Outside, the jungle was a nightmare. Trees were falling, branches flying like projectiles, and the sound of the beast mingled with that of the storm, turning the night into something we would never forget. We ran as if death itself were chasing us, and perhaps it was. The jungle around us was a hell of falling trunks, snapping branches, and the relentless roar of the storm. The rain was so heavy we could barely see more than a few feet ahead, and with each flash of lightning, the forest lit up as if hell was about to consume everything. Thunder reverberated in our bones, and the wind whipped with such force that the physical pain was constant. We could still hear the gunshots and the kidnappers' screams, but those sounds were fading. We need to get out of here, fast. Sabrina yelled over the storm's roar. André stumbled, clutching his side with a pained expression. At first, I thought it was from the beating we took in the hut, but then I noticed something else. A large branch, ripped off by the force of the wind, had struck his shoulder, and blood was running through his fingers. "Damn it," he muttered, gritting his teeth as he tried to keep walking, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. The injury and impact left him almost unable to walk on his own. Without a second thought, I put his arm over my shoulders while Sabrina did the same on the other side. We knew stopping wasn't an option. We were lost, soaked, and terrified. The sound of the beast still echoed through the jungle, more distant now, but still present. I wondered what was happening at the camp we left behind. The kidnappers' screams and the sound of the creature attacking them were almost drowned out by the storm. The feeling of helplessness mixed with terror was overwhelming. And there we were, in the middle of a Haitian jungle, facing a storm, armed gangs, and a beast that seemed straight out of a nightmare. The situation was desperate. The hike seemed endless, the ground becoming more slippery with mud, and the trees around us shaking as if they were about to be ripped out at any moment. The lightning illuminated the forest in a supernatural way, and several times I wondered if we were heading in the right direction or just getting deeper into the jungle. "We won't last much longer like this," Sabrina said with a tense but firm voice. "If André loses more blood, he won't be able to continue." I knew she was right, but there was nowhere to stop, no way to properly stop the bleeding there. Every step seemed to take us farther from safety, and the storm's roar showed no signs of easing. We were completely at the mercy of nature, and that thing still stalking the area. Then the storm began to subside. First, the wind lessened its force, the thunder rumbled away, and finally, the rain eased. The trees around us still groaned, but now silence began to replace the destruction. We were exhausted, injured, and without hope when something unexpected happened. A flash of light appeared ahead. At first, I thought it was one last bolt of lightning, but as we got closer, we saw a figure emerging from the jungle shadows. It was a man, carrying an oil lantern and speaking in Haitian Creole. When he got closer, I recognized his face. Then I remembered, just days earlier, we had treated his son in one of the Doctors Without Borders improvised clinics. The boy had been severely dehydrated, and Sabrina had been the one to stabilize him. Now, he stood before us, his face marked with concern. He didn't say much, but motioned for us to follow him. Despite the pain and exhaustion, we had no other choice. He led us along paths we couldn't see, always keeping a watchful eye around, as if expecting something to leap from the shadows. The jungle around us still felt alive, with the distant echoes of thunder and the wind whistling through the leaves. But at least now, the beast and the kidnappers were behind us. We arrived at a secluded hut, where his family awaited us. There, he gave us some food and shelter. The relief of being far from the gang's camp was indescribable. As we tended to André's wounds, Sabrina sat beside me and, for the first time since everything began, spoke about what had happened when the gang stormed the hut. They didn't manage to do anything to me," she said, her voice low but full of intensity. "That thing, the beast, arrived before they could." I looked at her, unable to respond. The beast, that thing we couldn't explain, had saved us from something even worse. At dawn, the man helped us return to the Doctors Without Borders camp. The destruction caused by the storm was indescribable. Uprooted trees, mud covering everything, and the bodies of animals scattered along the dirt road. But we were alive. We had survived the gang, the beast, and the storm. When we finally caught sight of the camp, with the white tents rising between the wreckage, we knew we had barely escaped. But that beast, that monster that had come with the storm, was still out there. The man led us a few meters from the camp and then stopped. He stood in silence, watching as we walked toward the white tents. With each step, we felt the relief of finally being close to a safe place, but something about the man unsettled us. Maybe it was his absolute silence or the way he looked at us with an almost supernatural intensity. When we were at a safe distance, I couldn't resist and turned one last time. He was still standing there, his posture firm, as if waiting for something. The wind gently swayed the leaves around him, and for a brief moment, the rays of the rising sun filtered through the treetops, illuminating his face. And that's when I saw it. His eyes glowed. A bright, sinister glow, identical to what we had seen in the beast that invaded the camp and attacked our captors on that chaotic night. Frozen in place, I felt a chill run down my spine. It couldn't be, or could it? That man, who had guided us through the darkness, saved us, could he be something more? Something beyond what we could understand? Sabrina touched my shoulder, breaking the trance. "Let's go," she said, her voice hesitant, as if she felt something was off too. We moved on, with the camp in sight, but one question pounded in my mind. Who, or what, was that man? And was he somehow connected to the beast that appeared with the storm?